Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to do something a little bit different this time. The other day I did a video on being an expat and what I didn't like about it and why I was moving back. And for the first time, people asked me to do one on the positives because I did briefly mention some of the good things about being an expat, but the point of my last video was that I no longer want to do it and why I don't think it's worth it and why I want to move back. But that said, I've been an expat for 10 years. And for the first few years when I lived here, it was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. And in fact, the reason I'm sitting here right now making these videos, helping other people, is because of my moving to Peru. When I first got here, I was basically just taking jobs on Upwork, working part time. When I was in the USA, I was doing some election fundraising work, which, it paid all right. But when I came here, I was just doing a couple little odd jobs on Upwork, making about $1,000 a month, which is probably today's dollars, $1,400 or so, maybe equivalent. Maybe let's call it $1,500. Just say making an equivalent of $1,500 a month today. And it was obviously not enough money to get very far in the USA. I was basically staying in a flop house. I got out of that and was paying for a really, really small place in a bad neighborhood. My landlord was a drug addict. It was not a good scene, but it was all I could afford. So I headed out. My brother lives in Peru and he invited me to come stay out here for a few months. So I figured, what have I got to lose? I had nothing going for me in USA, not making a lot of money, was single, didn't have a lot of property, wasn't getting ahead. I was, almost 40 years old and was getting nowhere. So I put all my stuff into storage and I came out to Peru, got myself a 6-month visa. I wasn't sure how long I was going to be here. I was thinking 2 or 3 months maybe. I might stay for the whole 6 months and see how things go. I got here with one suitcase and my backpack, which had my laptop in it, and I had about $300. That was it. And I also paid my first month's rent ahead of time through my brother. I gave him some money and he set that aside for me. And I moved into what was basically, an Airbnb type of room rental. Real cheap, but nice neighborhood, small, had all the basics, and it cost me a little over $100 a month. And so that freed up a lot of money. You're making, even, let's just even call it $1,000. I still had like $900 left. That was enough money. I could go out every weekend, hit the bars, check out the casinos, do some, be entertained and eat out in restaurants 4 or 5 times a week. And just, I hardly had kept any food at home, worked part time, and it was great because I didn't have to, like in the USA, I was always out there hustling, trying, going out in front of Home Depot, doing anything I could do to make any extra money. And as a lot of people know, when you're in that situation, you can go out looking for work, day labor jobs, whatever, and you spend more than half that time just trying to find something. So when you're working, even if you're making 10, 15 bucks an hour, you're really only making $3, $5, $6 an hour when you factor in all that time. But anyway, I'm making, $1,000 a month. I've got all day free. I'm going around town, checking out the sites, and it was a great way to live on a limited income. So I don't want people to think that being an expat is a horrible, horrible thing. It's not. It's got its benefits. It's become a horrible thing for me in the position I am in now. But if you are in the position I was in 10 years ago, I highly recommend it. If you have a skill that you can do remotely, even if it doesn't pay a lot of money, it's an attractive option. What you can do is, because with my making that $1,000 a month, I was then able to, have a little more time to pitch for other jobs, make a little bit extra money. Next thing you know, I was making, $2,000 or $3,000 a month, which again is not a terrible amount of money. But when you're getting by on $1,000 a month and you've got triple that, that's a ton of money. I took that money, I reinvested it. I bought myself a nicer desk, a little business setup, a better computer, and started a website. And I took a bunch of courses on, how to do WordPress, how to learn marketing basics, how to do some basic graphic design. I learned some basic skills that helped me level up what I was already doing. And so, with this better skill set, I was able to turn that into an online business. And granted, that took a lot of work. I ended up going to school. I went to the University of the People, which for anybody who's struggling, who wants to get a degree, I hear people talk about the high college costs, that, oh, I took out $50,000 in loans to go to college. University of the People is like $150 a class, and it's a university. It's in California. You don't have to pay for books. You don't have to pay for anything. That's it. It's $150, maybe $200, depends on the class, and that's just to basically process the paperwork. It's cheap. You can get a whole degree for like under $5,000. You take one or two classes at a time. It'll cost you, $1,000 a year. You can afford that. If you can't afford it in the USA, you can definitely afford that as an expat. And when you have a degree, you can again level up again. And so these are all the great things about being an expat. If I did not come here, I would not be in a position to be taking my family back to a nice, comfortable life. So, when I talked about the negatives, there's a lot of negatives, but those negatives mostly come with me having a family. I've got to get up early, get my kids ready for school. I've got to keep them safe, and without them, none of these things that I had issues about really mattered 10 years ago. I didn't care about, my mail getting stolen. I couldn't afford to get anything sent to me. I didn't care about people partying all night because I would just stay up all night and, party with them. No big deal. I had no reason to, a lot of these things didn't matter a lot less then. And so and especially if you are coming from the position I was coming from, that was just the way things were where I came from anyway, and it didn't matter. It's not that big of a deal. Noisy places, whatever. They're all things that can be managed. And you know what? When you're living in the USA and you're in a mattress that's filled with bugs in a roach-infested place, and it's loud constantly, you hear gunshots and screams because you're in such a bad neighborhood. You're starving. You can't sleep because you're starving, and you're in a crappy on a crappy mattress, and life is horrible. When you come to a place like Peru, and the biggest problem you have is you got a drunk neighbor who's blasting music one day a week, it's not that big of a deal. It's a big step up. So, these are the positives. If you've got a great job, you're doing well in the USA, you would be insane to become an expat. I mean, I see those people moving to Bali and, doing all this stuff. It's a great experience. I'm not going to take that away. And if you're young and if you're single, great thing to do. If you've got a good job, if you've got a family, there's no point to it. You don't see a husband and a wife and two kids, moving to South America or Mexico or anywhere to live the laptop life. It just doesn't happen for a reason. So, those are the positives, and there you go. If, now you got both sides of the story. I do not regret moving here. I just don't want to be here anymore. So on that note, I hope you enjoy the other side of the story. And if you're still here by chance, give it a like, give it a subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. I plan on doing a couple videos later on, how University of the People works, how to, set yourself up with an Upwork profile. So if you're considering doing this type of thing, becoming an expat, I will have videos in the future of how to do basically what I did in more detail. You're just going to have to wait for that for another day. On that note, take care, everybody. Bye.